Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you all to another great episode of the Scale Your Business podcast, where we want to help small business owners like you succeed. I'm your host, Andrew Dupeval.
I just wanna buy my mama a house. My mama a house.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in today's episode. I have a lot in store for you all. Today I'm going to be defining the term business and show y'all the difference between what a side hustler is, who a freelancer is, who a startup founder is, and who a business owner and entrepreneur is. And with a clear understanding of these different titles, including their boundaries, we'll better know how to identify what stage you're currently in as a business and what's the best strategy to scale outwards. So let's get right into it, right? So what's the deal with everybody nowadays, just using the word entrepreneur or business owner in their bio, especially on social media? It's important that we take a look at some of these self-proclaimed titles just to make sure we're actually titling ourselves the right titles, especially on social media or especially on LinkedIn and some of these platforms where we're trying to, showcase our business and show people exactly what we're doing with our services. The first topic or the first title I really want to discuss is side hustle, right? That's kind of like the bare minimum of somebody who's an entrepreneur or somebody who wants to consider themselves as an entrepreneur. And, a side hustle, as we take a look at that, this is when you realize you can make a little bit of money on the side doing something you're talented at. People who love to bake may once in a while bake a few pies for their family members, their friends, and their coworkers. Handymen and women who are good with their hands may occasionally lend a hand to some of their friends and some of their families at a small fee. But regardless, most of these side hustles are exactly what the name implies. It's just a gig on the side providing some type of supplemental income. And many of these side hustles, they're done under the table, which makes sense because you're not required to report any income that generates more than $600 a year. But turning these side hustles into a full-fledged business is probably the last thing on the mind for these side hustlers. And that's important to know because a lot of people may be selling shirts on the side. They may be baking goods. Maybe they're making a few products, whatever it may be, but they're just taking it part-time. They're not really taking it seriously. They just dibbling and dabbling into it. Maybe they have a talent that they've been monetizing and they haven't really been thinking about creating a business out of that talent, but they do appreciate the income, the supplemental income that's coming from some of those talents and skills. But that's just a side hustle. It's just a part-time hustle. So it's not really a business. It's not a activity or anything of that nature. And as we take a look at people who are taking their side hustles a little bit more seriously and steadily growing their customer base, they might actually think about becoming a freelancer and structuring their business so that way they can legally provide a contract or subcontract work to companies and consumers at a higher capacity more than their side hustle, right? So most freelancers are full-time self-employed while others may still have a part-time job to help pay bills and make ends meet. And as a freelancer, you will not only be responsible for creating all of the systems and the processes to get your work done, but you will also need to stay on top of your taxes, stay on top of your invoices, your payments received, your health insurance, and so on and so forth. So think about your local photographer, think about your local tax advisor, your local insurance agent. A lot of them are self-employed freelancers. And a lot of these web designers, writers, graphic designers that you're finding on these freelancing sites like Fiverr.com are again most likely freelancers. And freelancers don't typically have employees underneath them, but occasionally you may find a freelancer that hires a secretary or an assistant to help with the organization or the scheduling and some admin related duties. So now that we know what a freelancer is, I want to quickly define what a startup is so that way we can properly distinguish between who's a freelancer and who's a startup founder and who's a small business owner. So when an entrepreneur or a group of entrepreneurs have an idea, and hopefully this idea is a groundbreaking one that can shake up their industry, these entrepreneurs typically start testing their idea with what's called a MVP, a minimum viable product. Now, this MVP is essentially a prototype or a draft of what the final product or service could be. And entrepreneurs will use this MVP to test out the market for their product or service. And once they've tested out their business idea and their MVP and they are now satisfied with both the results of the MVP and the potential to succeed with the company, it's time to now make it official and launch the startup, right? So the term startup can be defined as a company in their first stage of operations. Most startups lack a fully developed business model and, more importantly, lack adequate capital to move on to the next phase of business. And some of these large companies that are trading publicly right now, they all began as startups. Take a look at Facebook, Airbnb, Uber, SpaceX, Amazon. Once this startup has developed a good customer basis, has developed processes, has developed systems, and once they've hired enough personnel, this startup can now be considered a small business, right? So let's actually talk about what is the definition of a small business. Most startup founders, and I really want you guys to understand this, most startup founders are not considered business owners until their startup has graduated from startup stage to now a small business. And it's crucially important to properly classify whether or not your business is still in its startup phase or if it's actually a small business, because when you classify that properly, you can actually fix whatever problems your startup or your business has to properly get it to where it needs to be or to properly get it to that next stage, right? And a business can be defined as a set of systems and processes that generate revenue on a consistent basis. And that's the main difference from a business and a startup. A startup doesn't have the systems and the processes and the personnel already in place to generate revenue on a consistent basis. They may once in a while be able to generate revenue or once in a while be able to get some money coming in. But until they create those systems and those processes and hire the right personnel, they will not be considered a business. And until they can be profitable on a consistent basis, they won't be considered a business. They'll just be a startup or maybe a freelancing gig or anything, or a side hustle. Depending on your industry and your country, a small business can be defined as a business with a maximum of 250 employees or a maximum of 1,500 employees. Regardless of your employee size and generated annual sales, though, as a small business, you must already have processes, systems, and procedures in place to operate the business remotely. You will already have employees and staff to help you run and operate the business with or without you. And that's, again, very crucial characteristic of a business versus a startup. Now, in a business, you have the processes, you have the systems, you have the employees, to the point where you as a business owner can actually go on vacation for a whole year and your business is still operating. It's still generating revenue on that consistent basis with or without you. Now, in a startup, you're the one that's operating the business. You're the one managing the business. You're the one doing the technician of the business or providing the service or the product. With that being said, if you take a vacation for a year, your startup will not make money, right? So that's the key difference between a startup and a business owner. A business owner has sets of systems and processes and the right personnel to generate that consistent revenue, where a startup is using the MVP, a minimum viable product, to try to figure out the best way to launch this product, the best way to launch the business. And they're also trying to fit their product within the market and figure out where do they as a company fit within their market, right? So that's the two differences between the startup and the business owner. Now, as we take a look at the term entrepreneur, many people use entrepreneur in their bio. Many people consider themselves entrepreneur. A lot of people that are working full-time jobs are calling themselves entrepreneurs. And, it's cool, but you got to be real with yourself. Are you really an entrepreneur if you're working full-time at a job and 2 hours a week on your part-time side hustle? You're not an entrepreneur. You're just a full-time professional that is dibbling and dabbling into entrepreneurship activities. Now, for me, an entrepreneur is someone who dibbles and dabbles in these ventures, but at various capacities and at high capacities, right? So an entrepreneur may be a freelancer who also owns and operates a small business. At the same time, an entrepreneur could also be someone who is employed full time, but is in the process of launching a startup, right? Entrepreneurs tend to partake in all types of these ventures that I listed earlier in an effort to create businesses, create wealth, and shake up industries. So unless you're partaking in a side hustle, a startup, or a business in order to create wealth, to create a business out of it, and shake up the industry that you're in, then you're not an entrepreneur. Now, some notable terms to know as we talk about business and entrepreneurship. Nonprofit is one of those terms that you should know about. Obviously, that's a business that is not in it for the money, or it's not in it for the profit. So all the profits go back to the business. It doesn't go to the CEO. Whereas as a startup or as a business owner, all the profits that you're making every year, you have the decision to do whatever you want with those profits. You can take those profits, reinvest it back into the business, or you can take those profits and pay yourself a higher salary, or you can take those profits, start another business, take those profits and save it, take those profits and pay your employees more. Whatever you want to do in a for-profit business, you're allowed to do so. But in a nonprofit business, by law, you can only take that profit and put it back into the nonprofit. Now, mom and pops, that term is usually thrown out a lot, especially in the Black community, especially in immigrant communities. A lot of people would talk about mom and pops, and it's important that we understand most mom and pops are actually small businesses. Now, one thing I will say about a lot of these immigrant and Black owned mom and pops is that they're very small. It's smaller than what a small business should actually be considered. It's almost to the point where a lot of these mom and pops are working and operating as a freelance or as a self-employed company, right? And sometimes because they're not even profitable and they don't have systems and processes in place to automate and remove themselves as the self-employee, a lot of the times these mom and pops can also be considered startups because a startup doesn't mean that you're in year one of operation. A startup is just a stage of what your business is in. And that's what I want you guys to understand. A startup could be you could be 10 years in and you're still a startup. And the reason for that is because 10 years in, you still haven't developed the processes and the systems to help remove you from self-employee to now a business owner. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. A business owner is someone who owns a set of systems and processes, including the personnel to run the business and generate consistent revenue. Now, a startup is just a company or a group of entrepreneurs that is testing their ideas, testing their products, testing their MVP, testing their services, and testing where they fit in the market. They're figuring out all these things before they can get to a profitable business stage, right? So with that being said, a lot of mom and pops have not been able to create systems and processes that generate them revenue on a consistent basis. A lot of mom and pops are doing the hair. If we're talking a salon or a barbershop, a lot of mom and pops are cutting their hair, hiring people, firing people. They're doing the marketing. They're on the social media. They're trying to figure out the website. They're trying to figure out funding and getting loans and using line of credit, increasing their credit score. They're trying to figure out, expansion and all that sort of stuff. And the problem with that is you can't do it all. And that's why you need to hire personnel. And that's why there's a thing called scaling a business, which I would talk about in the next segment. But I just want to reiterate and emphasize on the fact that a lot of mom and pops are actually in their startup phase. When you look at it in terms of, do they have processes and systems that can automate their business so that they don't have to be in it 24/7? No, most mom and pops don't. And unfortunately, most immigrants and Black communities own mom and pops. So we got to figure that portion out. Now, as we talk about sole proprietors and DBAs just doing business as, technically, a sole proprietor or DBA is not a business entity. A business entity is a incorporation, so you can have a C Corp or S Corp, or it could be a LLC, a general partnership. These are technically a business entity, but a sole proprietor is technically not a business entity, but you will have an EIN number to report to taxes. You'll still be able to hire people as well with a DBA or a sole proprietor. So, you can still work and operate like a business as a sole proprietor, which a lot of these mom and pops are. A lot of these mom and pops are sole proprietors, right? Which means that there's only one owner. So that one owner can hire people, right? They can hire staff, they can hire waitresses, they can hire stylists. But at the end of the day, if they don't have the systems and the processes to remove themselves from being self-employed, then it's still a startup. It's still a small, not even a small business. It's still a startup, and it's still a mom and pop. So as we take a look at some other terms to note, independent contractor and self-employed, a lot of people consider themselves as an independent contractor. A lot of people consider themselves as self-employed. That's pretty much the same as, the freelancers that I was talking about earlier. That's essentially the same as people who are working by contract, working by an hour, not an hour basis, but working by per project. So again, somebody who's a graphic designer can give me a contract to make 2 to 3 promotional materials for me, and they'll charge me X amount of dollars for those 2 to 3 promotional materials. And then once they've done it, they've given me my product and I've paid them, they're free to go do whatever they want to do as a freelancer, right? So that's similar to an independent contractor. When you hire someone to come and fix your plumbing, or when you hire someone to come paint your house, a lot of the times you're going to be hiring an independent contractor who is technically a freelancer who paints on the side or paints full time, and they work on their own. And then the last notable term that I want to mention is e-commerce / dropshipping / Amazon FBA. Now, there's been an uprise in people that have been starting Amazon FBAs, and that just stands for fulfilled by Amazon. And there's a lot of people that have been doing drop shipping and promoting e-commerce. And a lot of the times these e-commerce platforms it's just a website where people can purchase from, right? So people are establishing a website and putting products, most likely not their products, most likely they're taking other people's products, putting it on that website, and then marketing it to everyday consumers. And when everyday consumers go on that website and buy these products, the person who created that website gets a portion of that revenue that's coming in, almost commission based, right? So, these businesses can be considered a side hustle, because I don't necessarily need to have a doing business as or a sole proprietor to start a website and start selling other people's products on that website. What I will need to do is get an EIN number, right? With that EIN number, I can now report that revenue stream that I'm getting from my e-commerce platform to the IRS, which you will need to do again if you're making more than $600 in revenue for any type of income stream that you have. So a lot of these dropshipping sites can be considered a side hustle, and some of them can actually be considered a small business, because if you really think about it, if I have a website and I have to do the marketing for that website, I have to find the right products, put them on the website, maybe change the pricing or adjust the pricing depending on the trends in the market. Maybe I also have to find personnel to code my website and create graphical designs and content for the website. Maybe I have to do some videos as well. Maybe I have to do some payroll, whatever it may be, some inventory tracking. If I actually bought the products myself and I'm the one selling it now and fulfilling the orders, I got to do inventory tracking and supply tracking. So with all that, you can end up creating a whole business, a whole startup or small business out of these drop shipping platforms and sites. So definitely understand what you're doing with whatever entrepreneurship venture that you're in. Understand what is the classification of it, what are its limits, and how are you able to scale it to that next level. So for my next segment, I'm going to be talking about scaling. That scaling is very important, right? Because if you have a side hustle, you better be wanting to take that side hustle to the next level, which sometimes that just means taking that side hustle to freelancing, right? And maybe now you're self-employed with that side hustle and you're able to, go to gig and generate money, or enough money to live on your own or live off of that income stream. But what's the next level from taking it from freelancing to something else? That something else is usually a startup or a business, right? A small business. So if you already been freelancing, and let's say again, you've been cutting hair, you're a stylist, you've been cutting hair and you've been freelancing, and you make enough money to survive off of that freelancing, you want to take it to the next level, which is small business owner, which means you're going to have to hire some stylists under you. You're going to have to create some processes and some systems. And, those processes and systems are going to help you with your marketing, help you with your finance and bookkeeping, help you with your taxes, help you with your thinking about projected sales and forecast. It's also going to help you with determining what's your best market or how do you best reach your target audience, right? And some of those processes and systems are also going to help you onboard the staff that you're going to be hiring as a stylist. So here you are as a freelance stylist. I've hired 2 to 3 stylists underneath me. I've created an onboarding process to onboard those stylists. So that way they're doing and cutting the hair the same way I cut hair. So that way we have a standard as a company, we have a standard of how we cut hair, and the people I've onboarded are following those standards. I also created processes and systems to get new clients, to engage past clients, to promote and market myself to new markets, so on and so forth. Now I'm creating a business, right? So it went from just me, cutting people's hair or styling people's hair every month. They'll hit me up on the DM. I'll come to their house. I start doing their hair, whatever. And now because of all those things that I've implemented, now I have a business, and all I would need is just a location to bring the customers to. Right. So these are some things to start thinking about if you're a freelancer or if you're a startup or if you're a business owner as well. But as we talk about scaling, it's important that we understand the various types of entrepreneurship ventures and the difference between a startup and a small business, because all of these different titles, these different ventures all require a different process to scale. Right. So the term scale can be defined as to increase the size, amount, or extent of something. If I have a small business with 1 employee or 2 employees and we make $100 a year, by scaling it, I'm adding a few more employees. I probably might have a few more processes to properly onboard those employees. And now, because I've added more employees and more processes and more systems, I can generate more sales, but nothing is lost, right? So let's say if I have a t-shirt company, and for every person that I employ, each employee can only make 5 t-shirts, right? So I have 3 employees. Each employee can only make 5 t-shirts. That's 15 t-shirts, right? For 3 employees. Now, let's say if I double that, I get 6 employees now. How many t-shirts am I going to have? I'm going to have 30 t-shirts, ideally, right? So that's what scaling is. It's proportionate to what you already have. So when you have this small business or you have a startup or whatever it is, most likely in order to scale, you're going to have a business. It can't be a startup and it can't be a freelancing gig. It has to already be a business, because in order to scale, it got to be stable. Because just the same way I just mentioned, if I have 3 employees making the 5 shirts, that's going to be 15 shirts total. But let's say that third person that I hired isn't keeping up with the rest of the employees. They're taking longer to get onboarded. They're taking longer to learn the process. So let's say that third person can only make 1 t-shirt. So my 2 employees are still making the 5 t-shirts that's required. That's 10 t-shirts. But my third employee is only making 1. So now I'm at 11 t-shirts. I don't want to scale that, because if I scale that, I'm going to scale that third person who can only make 1. So now I'm going to have 2 people that can only make 1 t-shirt. You feel what I'm saying? What about the scaling? So you're scaling your mistakes just as much as you're scaling what's good. So the 2 employees, I double that. The 2 employees that are making 5 t-shirts, I double that. Now I got 4 people giving me 5 t-shirts. That's 20 t-shirts, right? But that third employee that I hired can only make 1. And when I double that person, it's 2 people that can only make 1 each. I don't want to scale that. I want to get that one person, that third employee, I want to get him from making 1 t-shirt to making 5 t-shirts, because that's the standard. Once that third employee has finally made 5 t-shirts, now I got all 3 of my employees making 5 t-shirts. Now I can scale it and double the employees, because now I've reached the capacity of what these 3 people can do. But if that third person never reached its potential, never reached its capacity, I don't want to scale yet. So this is why it's important that you're not scaling a startup. You're not scaling a side hustle. You're only scaling a stable business, right? And that's why I gave y'all the definition and the difference between what a startup is, what a freelance is, and what a business actually is. So now as we talk about the definition of scale in the context of scaling a business, it's defined as to grow or expand in a proportional and usually profitable way. So once your business idea has been validated and becomes a bit more established and stable, it's time to start thinking about your long-term plan, which requires you to create strategies to help you scale and grow efficiently. But before you can actually scale and grow your business, you must ask yourself a few questions. Do you have the capacity and the capability to scale your business? Is your business even set up to enable and support growth? And if you're not ready to scale your business, you're going to need to look at your different departments, look at your personnel, look at your processes and your systems and optimize them, fix them, so that way you're ready to scale. Scaling requires strategic planning, it requires funding, and it requires the right systems, the right staff, processes, and technology and partners to be in place in order for you to execute properly on that scaling. Here are some areas for you to improve and focus on if you are ready to scale or before you're ready to scale. Number 1, finding money to fund the scale. As we plan to scale, it's going to require you to hire staff. It's going to require you to deploy new technology. It's going to require you to add equipment, facilities, and it's going to require you to create some reporting systems that measure and manage these results. So how are you going to be able to afford all of these new expenses as you scale? And obviously the best solution for that is start thinking about loans. Okay, if you're getting ready to scale, you're a stable business right now and you're getting ready to scale, start thinking about loans. Start thinking about your line of credit. Are you accessing your line of credit? Or how is your business credit? And do you have any other investors or VC that can actually contribute to the business? Because at this point, your business is stable. It's generating consistent revenue, but it's not generating enough revenue for you to grow and scale. So that's when you're going to have to look for outside funding. If it can't come from you, it got to come from the loan. It got to come from your credit. So the best advice that many business owners will give you is to use other people's money. And that's the great thing about scaling is if I know the product works, right? And that's why, again, you got to know what stage your business is in. Because if you are in business stage, small business stage, rather than the startup stage, if you are an established business, more stable, then you already know the product works. There's no more MVP testing. You already know the product works. You already know where you fit in the market. You already know what your target audience is willing to pay for your product, right? So now you just need to scale everything that works, right? So with that being said, when you go to the bank and you tell them, listen, I just need some money to buy more product or buy more t-shirts for me to print, boom, I can scale from there. Because if I already know this is selling $20 and I'm making $10 profit from this, I just want more t-shirts. At this point, I'm like, word, I've already sold this. I sold out. I've only made 5 t-shirts. I sold out so quickly. I made $10 each. So I am profitable. People are buying it. I just need more t-shirts to push. And unfortunately, I don't have the money. So I'm going to have to look to a loan or a bank or an investor to give me that money to buy the t-shirts so I can sell it, get the profit, pay back those investors or the loan, right? So that's one way to think about funding before you scale. As we talk about the second area to focus on before you start scaling, optimizing your marketing and your sales funnel is definitely crucial. So scaling your business obviously means that you're going to be selling more of your product, right? And if you don't have good marketing funnels, if you don't have a good sales funnel in place, then you're not going to be maximizing how much money you can make as you scale. So you need to ask yourself, do you have the sales structure in place to generate, convert, and sustain an increase in sales? So to fix that or to kind of figure that out before you start scaling your business, start doing some sales forecast, start doing some projected financials, create some scripts, start looking at your referrals. Are you maximizing on the referrals that you have? Are you maximizing on how you're engaging with your past customers and new customers and even your leads? Are you engaging with them on a consistent basis? Before you can even scale, you got to know, what are you scaling to? Right? If your output, again, I'm gonna keep using this t-shirt. If I'm only able to make 5 t-shirts per person, that I know my capacity, right? So now I can create sales forecast. If I get 2 more people, that's 10 more shirts. If I get 4 more people, that's 20 more shirts, because it's still five t-shirts per person. So now with that knowledge, you'll know, okay, if I get 5 more people, that's going to be 25 more shirts. Cool. How much does it cost to get 5 more people? Start creating those forecasts so you can prepare before you scale. Don't wait to get the 5 people to figure out how much it costs. Figure that out before. Even while you're a startup, figure that out before. Same thing with projected financials. In order for me to hire 5 people, I got to pay more in taxes now. I got to have a bigger onboarding process to onboard those 5 people. I might need more machines for those 5 people to use to print more t-shirts. I might need more first aid kits or whatever it may be by law now that I have more people on board. With all of that means more cost. So you got to project out those costs. The other thing is scripts. As you're optimizing your marketing, your sales funnel, you got to have scripts, because as you grow and you scale, you're not going to be able to be changing your verbiage and your communication to each of your customers. When you're marketing to your customers, you don't want to be having to come up on the spot. What are you going to say when you're marketing or posting this social media ad? When you're making ads, when you're making posts on social media, you don't want to be coming up with the caption. You want to already have that scripted out years in advance, months in advance. Same thing with emails. You don't want to be, when someone signs up, you don't want to be, okay, let me now send them an email, a personalized email. No, that's not scalable. What is scalable is having a script, an email script that you put that's automated. So when people sign up for your subscription email, they get an automated email response back to them, right? And you're not sitting there writing the whole email. It's automated. So you got to start thinking about that. Now, the third area to focus on before you scale your business is technology, right? So investing in technology makes it a whole lot easier and less expensive when you're getting ready to scale your business. Many of your processes, especially your manual processes, can be automated with the implementation of the right technology. So when we talk about posting social media posts, right? You don't want to be posting each post right then and there. You want to have that scheduled out. If you're a business owner and you're taking the time out of your day to post and write a caption and put hashtags and post it on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you're wasting time. First of all, you need to have a personnel to take care of that. If you don't have the personnel to take care of that, that should be automated. How do you automate that? You schedule it in advance. So you block out a period of time, 1 hour a month, 2 hours a month, maybe 1 hour a week, and you schedule out all of your posts for social media. So that way you're not taking time out of your busy days to do that. Now, the last area of focus before you scale your business is your staff, your employees, right? Technology will only give you a certain amount of leverage, but you're still going to need to hire people to use the technology, and you're still going to need to hire people to do what technology can't. And think about customer service. You don't really want to rely on technology for customer service. The amount of times that I've called and got the robot talking to me, the automated voice, and I've been pissed off because I'm like, I just want to talk to a customer service rep. This robot that I'm talking to doesn't understand my individual problem. And because of that, I was a dissatisfied customer, hung up, and didn't want to do business with that company because they kept sending me to an automated voice rep rather than a real life customer service rep. So it's important that you have the right people in the right places and you have enough personnel to handle your business as you scale. Now, if growth causes your company to stumble because of confusion, or orders start being unfulfilled, or you start realizing that you have an insufficient staff, and you realize you don't have the capacity to fulfill your manufacturing or delivery orders, then you probably failed somewhere in your planning to scale. So review each of your departments, review those areas that I told you to focus on, take a look at them. Make sure that you're optimizing each of those departments, and make sure that you're improving these departments and adjusting them for a business that can be scaled. But that's it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody that tuned in and listened to the entire episode. Like always, make sure you like it, share it, subscribe, and definitely make sure you comment and give us feedback. But most importantly, share it to a business owner that you know share it to an entrepreneur that you want to see get better and improve, and share it to somebody that you know would benefit from this podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I love y'all. Peace.
I just wanna buy my mama a house. My mama house. My mama house. My mama house. I just wanna buy my mama a house. My mama house. My mama house. Like every black child, just wanna buy my mama a house. I wanna pack her things and be out.